Despite stiff opposition, the Senate approved $1 billion loan requested by President Jonathan to tackle insecurity and terrorism in the country. You're welcome to the Gavel. I'm Linda Akibi. It was a pretty intense week in the National Assembly. Federal lawmakers in both chambers looked at several issues, notably President Jonathan's request for approval of $1 billion to confront terrorism in the country. Although the Senate gave the approval for the loan, opposition lawmakers faulted the process. It's been more than 2 months since President Goodluck Jonathan wrote to the National Assembly asking lawmakers to urgently approve a $1 billion external loan for the federal government to confront Boko Haram. Well, finally, the matter was brought up at plenary. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance gave some details of the loan and why it is crucial for the request to be approved to tackle the ongoing security challenges.
It's not a cash loan, but a supply of military hardware to be paid for over 7 years. The equipment's hardware covers helicopters, ships, armaments, and other hardware equipment. In view of the Joint Committee's findings, the terms and conditions of the loan agreement, and the urgent need to restore full normalcy in the country, the Joint Committee recommends that the Senate approve the external loan in kind of $1 billion to tackle the ongoing security challenges.
But an opposition lawmaker argued that the request for the loan breached due process. The chairman of the Finance Committee disagreed.
We do not question the right of Mr. President to ask for money or ask to borrow money, but there is a process that needs to be followed. I raise these issues not to question the right to address the issue for this request is being made. I'm drawing attention to procedures that are stipulated in the Constitution and acts of this Parliament for subjects of this nature. And the process and the guidelines are there, well defined. But the letter that came to us is a letter requesting for authority to borrow. The borrowing plan of this country is contained in our MTEF. We want to know whether this borrowing is within the MTEF framework that we have, or whether the MTEF needed to have been amended and a supplementary appropriation for purposes of security be brought to this Parliament so that a supplementary appropriation can be so approved for Mr. President to undertake his constitutional responsibility as the Chief Security Officer of this country.
All the issues raised are not relevant to the issue we are considering now. The simple reason is that you ask a question what the definition of in kind is. I said it is not, there is no cash inflow or outflow. And you talk of appropriation when there is cash inflow or outflow. You are taking goods on credit, and the report said we are paying over 7 years, and each year you are going to make repayment. It's going to be in the Appropriation Act. The National Assembly will have to appropriate the repayment. The executive cannot just go outrightly and pay. And what is required is compliance with Public Procurement Act, which no law requirement, approval requirement. We are not required to see compliance with that Public Procurement Act. The relevant committees in doing their oversight work can follow up and see there is reasonable compliance with Public Procurement Act. The loan is in kind, there is no cash outflow, and repayments will be so appropriated and will be only made subject to approval of the National Assembly.
Tempers began to rise after the Deputy Senate President made his contribution.
I'm so worried because of the character of the debate. I don't want the situation where we leave these chambers and the public will believe that one political party is supporting a fight against insurgents and another political parties not supporting it. That is so. I don't want any place. Yes, that's what's happening here. So that is serious. That is a serious situation.
No senator shall put improper motives to another senator. Mr. President, sir, we are discussing a very important issue. There is no single Nigerian, not talk of a senator, who is not concerned about the security of this country.
If we all become unduly sensitive, then nobody is going to make progress here.
Despite the back and forth, when the question was put forward,
that the Senate approves the external loan in kind of $1 billion to tackle the ongoing security challenges in the Northeast. Say aye. Again, say nay. The ayes have it.
the majority had the day. Immediately after the Senate approved the $1 billion loan, the Senate Minority Leader, George Akume, spoke with journalists to explain why the opposition took the stand it did.
Rather than go out borrowing, why don't you take money from the excess crude account? Because the issue is very central. The excess crude account belongs to this country. All the tiers of government are part and parcel of that account. And when you talk of security, it doesn't stop at the national level, it doesn't stop just at the state level, it stops also, doesn't just stop at the local government level. All these tiers of government are involved. And so if you take money from the excess crude account, you're not doing anything that is untoward. When I was governor, we took money from the excess crude account to prosecute what President Obasanjo said was what? The, what he called emergency power project. Billions were taken from that account. And all of us consented because we thought it was in the best interest of this country to push the power sector ahead. Where we are today, I don't know. And such is Nigeria. In any case, what I'm saying is that instead of borrowing, the party, APC senators are saying, why don't you take money, the sovereign wealth fund, why don't you take money, failing that, from the excess crude account? Instead of saying you're going to borrow 1 billion, I don't know from where, they're going to borrow that money. But in any case, since they have overwhelmed us because of their numerical strengths, all we are saying is what? There must be accountability and transparency in the disbursement of these funds. And what is both Nigerian people should take note of that. They should see it. And this will be reflected in our planned offensive against Boko Haram.